someone just dropped this in, but question there, if you could just explain to folks with a bunch of locations and only a couple people monitoring it. Some folks are always understanding, well, how do you figure out how much you need at every single location? Really quickly type of stuff. But I just kind of talk through there on that like base level process while you're trying to decide, oh, this location needs this much, this needs that much, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so for me, it's just understanding foot traffic and demand at the location. So understanding how. So let me back it up a little bit, right?
Yeah,
And so I have internal meetings with all of my staff. I sit down with inventory, on a weekly basis. I sit down with the retail GMs on a weekly basis and understanding, how things are moving. So um, it's just making sure, especially with like initial like sorry, I'm getting myself tripped up real
no,
fast.
no, no, you're totally go. With an initial buy, it's just making sure that you're like you're using the data, you're logging into the tool, you're seeing like how much are you actually reasonably turning over, what's
Yeah,
the relative rates of these things, and you're not basically just blowing it out, being like, because oftentimes that's kind of what happens, right? Folks decide to bring in something new if they have too many stores, they've scaled too much, they don't have processes set up to monitor how much is actually selling through actually on a store by store basis, and they're just getting the buy wrong, right? At the
initially,
very
yeah.
least.
And it
Yeah.
all starts off with the initial order and understanding the demand per location,
Yeah.
understanding your demographic at each geographic location that we're working with. So, understanding that I have a store in Flagstaff, it doesn't slow down,
Yeah.
because it gets hot here in the valley. And what do people like to do? They go up north.
Yeah.
During the fall, the winter season, the seasonality of things, they have a bunch of students up north. So it's
Yeah.
like that does not skip a beat. And understanding, since it is cold outside, people aren't combusting flour within their homes. And it's understanding like a lot of them are vapors. So vape category grows a little bit more. A lot of these are college students and they're eating edibles because they don't want the smell associated with them. So the edible category grows. And it's just ultimately understanding the demand at each location, the demographic as well as the geographic. That's what it comes down to, and not over ordering. Testing things out with one case pack initially, two case
Hmm.
packs. You don't ever want to put yourself in a bad position to where you're sitting on inventory at the end of the day. You want
Yeah.
this stuff turned over, and like I said, we established some great processes over here at Ponderosa to ensure that we're not putting ourselves in a bad spot and we're not sitting on dead inventory at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
it comes down to the initial order and understanding your guys' locations, and it takes a little bit of the analytics, the intuition, I would say, and then just understanding what the market is doing as a whole.
Got it.